In this conversation, I sit down with Lisa Johnson. Unfortunately, I had a camera malfunction and lost all of the video, but Ms. Johnson was there in person and the audio is complete, uncut, so the conversation is there. Ms. Johnson, I apologize. Enjoy. Lisa, thank you for agreeing to sit down and talk to me about some of the issues with Walton County in general and your candidacy, and we'll get to all of that. But just tell me, where are you from?
I am originally from Memphis, Tennessee, which has allowed me to vacation down here since I was a little girl.
You moved here recently, or?
I bought down here about 15 years ago, and because I did not rent the condo out, I was able to come down here like 7 or 8 times a year, knowing I would move down here permanently. I just didn't know when.
I think that's like a lot of us. We knew we were going to be down here eventually.
If you ask any of my friends, none were surprised that I left Memphis and moved to the beach, and particularly this beach that I've grown up in. And then 7 years ago, I retired early. My last day was on a Friday. Saturday, I was in my car driving down here. So I've been a permanent resident now for 7 years.
So back in Memphis, that's where you graduated high school from?
High school, I went to University of Memphis. So now I am a Florida State fan because they just recruited our coach, our football coach. Love football, especially college ball.
Right. And what did you study at Memphis?
Marketing and sales. I've spent most of my career in sales, marketing, management, and training. I worked for Johnson & Johnson. I've worked for Pfizer. I've lived in numerous places across this country. But now Walton County is my home and has been my home, permanent home for the past 7 years. It's always had my heart.
Yeah. And 7 years ago you moved here just because that was sort of fulfilling a goal, a dream to be here.
When I wrote the resignation letter to Pfizer, because usually when somebody leaves, they're going to work for the competitor. So I said, I'm going to retire. I'm flexible on the last day because I'm not going to work for somebody else. I'm moving to Florida, and I'm going to spend my time with county government and nonprofits. And that's what I've done the past 7 years. I haven't worked, but it's just the season in my life to give back and to share. And then up until COVID, I was going down to Honduras twice a year to help down there. In the mornings, I was helping out at a medical clinic, and in the afternoons, I was teaching English after school to the Honduran kids.
Wow, that sounds interesting.
It was. I've stayed down there. You can only stay 3 months, so I've stayed as little as 2 weeks, or I did have one trip where I stayed 3 months, just because there was a lot to do.
And if I'm not mistaken, you've been on some similar type board, county commissioner boards, planning boards.
I have not served on the planning commission, but I've been going to the BCC meetings since I got here. So I'm very familiar with how the county works, and I've been going to planning meetings. I've been going to technical review meetings. I'm very involved in the Walton County Republican Party. I'm on the executive committee. In January, I passed the gavel to a new president of the Walton County Republican Women's Club. I am a member of the Defuniak Springs Kiwanis Club. I'm a board member of Walton Academy. I don't know if you're familiar with Walton Academy up in Defuniak.
I've heard of it. My kids don't go there, but...
I'm a beach ambassador, and
what would you say your top? Well, why did you want to be on the Board of County Commissioners? Why do you want to be?
That's a great question. When I first got here, I was having a conversation with somebody, and they said, so, it was somebody with county government, and they asked, so what do you want to do? Where do you see yourself going? I said, I definitely see myself running one year. I'm not sure for what, because at that point they were asking me, and I'd only been here a couple of years, and to jump into a county commissioner position, I really think the best candidate has done their homework, and I've done that. So again, I spent time with the Republican Party. I've run some campaigns down here, so I know how the campaign process works, and here I am.
So what would you say are your top 3 issues?
Infrastructure. And the reason I say it that way is because everybody, we have got to catch up with our infrastructure, and it affects everybody, because as soon as we get water and sewer on 331 and the 90 corridor up into Funiac, then we've got businesses coming here north of the bay, and that will diversify our economy so we're not so dependent on tourism. It'll give us higher paying jobs. And because I know, I don't think anybody looks forward to driving down from Defuniak or Paxton to come to South Walton. That's a long drive. So just think of how their quality of life would change if they could find the same good jobs closer to home. But we have got to get water and sewer on that 331 and 90 corridor. And the dollars are out there. We were allotted dollars from the BP oil spill, the Triumph funds, and they're sitting there, and they're earmarked for Walton County. So I will, that, you know.
Do you have any opinion as to why that isn't, sounds to me like you're saying it's not moving forward, or?
Well, it's a long process to fill out the paperwork. You know, that money can only be used for certain things, and infrastructure is one of them. And, you know, I was not on the Triumph committee, so I don't know why. We did lose the guy that chairs that committee, so maybe that was a setback for the county. But that's my number one priority, is to get that Triumph money. It's ours. You know, the spill affected us. We were compensated for us, and we need that money to keep moving Walton forward. You know, we just don't have businesses need sewer and water in order to come here.
True.
And as you know, how long have you been here?
4 years.
It's a great quality of life here. Who wouldn't want to move their business here?
Right. When you say businesses are waiting to come, do you have in mind specific businesses that?
I go to the economic development meetings once a month, and that's really where we have those discussions. Bill Imfield heads up that committee. It's a group of mayors and then people from different sectors. You know, we brought FedEx to Mossy Head. That was part of economic development. So we've had a number of businesses move here in the Freeport Business Park, but we can't go much bigger than that as far as size of businesses, because we don't have the infrastructure to support it.
Right.
And that park is almost full. We need another business park in Defuniak. Mm-hmm. But we've got to get the water and sewer in place.
Right. Would you say that South Walton is overdeveloped for the current state of the infrastructure?
There's a lot of traffic. I realize that, and nobody likes it. And I realize that South Walton doesn't look like today what it looked like 30 years ago. My dad was from a small town in Mississippi. Mm-hmm. And because they didn't diversify, that town looks just like it did 60 years ago. If we want Walton County to continue to thrive, yes, we need to catch up with infrastructure. But we're also so dependent on tourism, we can't turn our back on tourism. That's our number one moneymaker. It's a double-edged sword. But the way to dull one of those edges, so to speak, is to catch up with our infrastructure.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. I feel like it's such a long-term horizon. You got to start and got to get going somewhere, I understand.
It's got to be a priority. And the nice thing about coming in now, I wish it was already started,
right.
But if and when I'm elected, you know, that infrastructure conversation has already taken place over and over and over again. So I don't feel like I'm going to be starting at A, B, or C. We've already moved on to D. The biggest stumbling block for us now is getting the Triumph money. I know Brad Drake, I know the senator, so I've got lots of connections in Tallahassee, know some lobbyists there to bring that money to Walton County.
Let's talk about the environment.
Okay.
And specifically, have you been following, it's on social media, posted quite a bit, the D.R. Horton Grayton Beach Dune Lake.
I was not able to go to the technical review meeting on Wednesday morning, mm-hmm. but I listened to every minute It was the last item, so everybody waited patiently, and we knew they saved the best for last.
Right.
We knew it would be the longest item. So I don't know if that's how they order this things on the technical review, but it was the last item. And the engineer that's representing D.R. Horton has been great. So did you watch the technical review meeting?
I did not.
Okay, so you don't know the outcome?
No.
Okay. Well, again, as I said earlier, I've gone to BCC meetings, I've attended planning meetings regularly, and I have attended technical review meetings because it's got to pass technical review before it gets to planning, before it gets in front of the commissioners.
Right.
So, I mean, this project has been, this is not this is not D.R. Horton's first rodeo.
That's for sure.
And it's not their first time to go before technical review for this particular project. They obviously can't move on with the project until they go through these steps. Once again, it did not make it through technical review. There were some variances that were asked for that were not given that I totally agree with. And because our dune lakes are so precious, it is going to take a very special builder, in my opinion, that has experience building in environmentally protected areas, and I don't know that D.R. Horton has that experience. The way the project looks right now, I do not think it is compatible to go in that spot.
You know, some of the other candidates who I've already spoken with really emphasize the notion that, you know, if it's in the code and if it's according to the comprehensive plan, the commissioners have to vote yes to approve it if it gets there. Otherwise, the county's going to be sued for not allowing a property owner to do with their property as the code suggests. And then if you follow that rabbit hole down, you end up talking about home rule. And are you familiar with the concept of home rule?
No.
Well, you know, apparently it's this notion that, you know, we are governed, short-term rentals, for instance. The county cannot vote to restrict short-term rentals because under home rule, that's controlled out of the state legislature in Tallahassee. And, you know, I just find it difficult to swallow that so much of our local comings and goings are dictated by the same policies that govern a town like Miami.
Correct, because we're unique. We're the sweet spot in between Bay County and Okaloosa County, and we want to keep our uniqueness.
So how do we, you can pause there, we can edit that out.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay.
When you said home rule, I was thinking of kids for some reason. And that's where I went. I'm like, home rule. So yes, I know what you're talking about, and I agree. Anyway.
Yes, ma'am. Well, just to get back on this concept of home rule, really my question is, you know, would you be willing to, if not head, be a part of an initiative that kept an eye on Tallahassee and lobbied, you know, for what is important to us, partnered with other county governments to make an opinion known to the people that need it to be known to. You know, I don't even know what we could do, but one candidate said he would be in favor of maybe a volunteer watch group that would keep an eye on how Tallahassee voted. And in my mind, I'm thinking, why don't we do that already?
Yeah, that should be something that the Republican Executive Committee should be doing. I go over to Tallahassee about 3 or 4 times a year, so I've already got some contacts over there. And I definitely think that we do need to watch that and make sure that the decisions they're making in Tallahassee are not a blanket decision, because every county in Florida is different.
Well, that appears to be the opinion of how it is that it's a blanket set of circumstances for every, you know, county across the state, regardless if they have the issues that a place like Miami might have. And I
met with Brad Drake before I decided to enter the race and said, what do you think? I've spoken with George Gaynor over the phone in the past couple of months, but I was not able to meet with him because of his schedule before I got into the race. Before I made that decision, it's the right time. I can make a difference in Walton County, and I'm the best equipped to do it.
And another issue that centers around this home rule idea is customary use. And what do you think about customary use?
Let's talk about customary use. Well, as you know, it's up to a judge now. So let's talk about how we got there. I think customary use was a result of our code enforcement was not what it should be on the beach. We didn't keep up. We didn't have enough code enforcement officers on the beach. And the vendors, as our vendors grew, the rules didn't change. So it was just a free-for-all on the beach. We've hired more code enforcement. We've tightened up on the vendors. They've formed their own little advisory group. We meet with them before the season starts, and we meet with them after the season ends. There were some things going on down in Inlet Beach that it was a struggle between the owners and the vendors. That'll probably be the first thing on our agenda in September, because that's usually when the meetings takes place. I think that most of the beachfront homeowners, when they bought there, they knew they were buying on the beach. Obviously, that's why they bought there. They knew people were coming to the beach. I think what started the problem was the family-friendly area that everybody loves about Walton County and the 30A area. It just got out of control. So now that we've tightened up on that, I think there's a lot of homeowners that don't care if somebody's on their beach, but they want our tourists to be respectful.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if there is a resolution when the judge makes his decision.
There's got to be. I want everybody to come out of this happy. We're too reliant on tourism. I've already said that. That's why we've got to get the industry in here. To do that, we've got to get our infrastructure beefed up. But I mean, even with families out there, the private homeowners, most of them, I think the ones I've talked to are okay with people being on their beach as long as they're behaving. That they want a family-friendly type experience, not a spring break type experience. And it had gotten a little bit spring breakish in some areas.
What do you think about the corona response, the county's coronavirus response? Do you have any comments on that? Any strong feelings on how the county has responded to the pandemic?
Yes, I do. Like everybody else, I'm ready for this pandemic to go away. I've never experienced anything like this in my lifetime, and I'm older than you, so you haven't either. I think the president has done a good job managing it. The first thing I've got on my palm card in running for Walton County, my first priority is it's going to depend on where we are with the coronavirus. Unfortunately, that's kind of directing everybody's lives, whether it's your personal life, your church life, your professional life. We've all made changes to accommodate for the virus, to do things smarter and safely.
Could you vote for a mask mandate?
I was just going to get to mask. No, I would not. I do not think government should mandate that. That sounds a little like socialism to me. When it comes to wearing a mask, if I'd walked in here today and you had a mask on, I've got one in my purse.
Right.
If I'm going to a church and my church says you've got to wear your mask if you want to come to church, or you watch it at home, I've got that choice. If I were older, I don't know that I'd be attending church in person. I mean, you've also got to look at the age and where we think this coronavirus, who's more susceptible to getting the virus than others. But the mask mandate, if I had a small business and it said no mask, no entry, that gives me the choice as a consumer. I'm either going to shop there with a mask on, or I'm going to have to shop something else. But that is totally up to that owner. That is not up to the government to tell them, you can't be open unless everybody has a mask on. I know some of those small businesses, they have limited the amount of people in that store at a time, and that seemed to work. With the restaurants, that's more challenging than a dress store, because you're eating and you're waiting. The waiters are waiting on people. They're wearing masks now, which I think is good. I do think that every restaurant server, bartender, whatever, needs to have a mask on, because let's face it, if I'm dining in a restaurant, I can't wear one, but I think the person that's traveling from table to table to table, the transient person, needs to have a mask on. And then obviously when they turn that table from one customer to another, they need to make sure they're using the correct products so they can safely seat somebody else.
Just to play devil's advocate, what would you say to the people who say, well, wearing a mask prevents or reduces the possibility of transmission, and we need strong leaders who are not going to just do what their constituents want when the better decision is to, mandate a mask?
Mandate a mask?
Because we mandate seat belts.
Right.
There are certain...
But seat belts have been around for a long time, and it has been proven that seat belts reduce injury. With the mask, you would have to show me, and that's going to take a while. This is a brand new virus. With a mask, I would need statistical information, and I come from an industry, the medical and pharmaceutical industry, where they do studies, placebo-controlled. They would have to do a mass study, I'm just talking across different ages, different demographics. I would have to see a well-controlled clinical study that was done, much like the ones that we do with pharmaceuticals, where it showed statistically that mask reduced, the number of deaths, or reduced even the number of cases. I think that's really what we're looking at, but it's going to take a while to get that data, and there's some mixed data out there. And then there's, people saying that, well, the reason why there's so many cases is because the facilities get more money if they have more positives. I don't know if that's true or all.
Right.
My goal is to make Walton County the safest county in the country. And I think that the president has done a good job of managing the coronavirus. Has he made some mistakes? Probably. There's no perfect person in this world. And I think the key is the decision I make, because corona is so new, the decision I make today might not be the decision I make tomorrow, because so much more information has come out.
Okay.
I think it's just weighing that information, and we don't even have a year under our belt now. We've got a lot of deaths, but not as many of deaths as we had with previous, Spanish flu, just your basic flu. But because it's new, the press is talking about it more, and I get that.
It's an election year.
And it's an election year. You're right.
There seems to be, I've only been here 4 years. You 7 visited longer than that. But even in those 4 years, I keep hearing that Walton County has got a good old boy network, and there's corruption about. Do you think that there's corruption in the Walton County government?
I think I have not seen any corruption in the Walton County government. However, I've voted for a very long time, and corruption comes up in every election year. I think that certainly we don't have the corruption like we had back in the day of the mafia. Take a look at New York they've really, put the brakes on what's going on in there. There's probably still some corruption in New York. I don't think that you can escape corruption, but I think you can minimize it by having trustable people in office.
And, a couple of the other candidates have said they've taken donations from the Foreman family down in Davie, Florida. Is that the case? Have you received any donations?
Absolutely. I met with Charlie Foreman. I meet with anybody. If somebody says, I want to donate to your campaign, I meet with them first, whether they're a builder, a stockbroker, a banker, whatever. And the picture that was taken in the Miami area, Miami or Orlando. So it gave you the impression that this is what he built in South Florida.
Right.
That is not true.
Okay.
He doesn't build high rises. I am against raising the height limit any higher than it is right now.
Under no circumstances would you vote to
raise the height limit?
raise the height?
No.
Yeah.
No. My no is no, my yes is yes. But even if somebody wanted to, I mean, it's just such an absurd notion. Even if somebody wanted to, where are they going to build it? 30A is almost all built up.
Right.
But no, that is not good. That is not being a good neighbor to who already is there. It's definitely not following the code. The only way somebody could ever, I've not talked to a single person, because as a commissioner, you've got to listen to your constituents. I have not talked to a single person that wants the height limit raised. However, that has been thrown in my lap because I don't have any skeletons in the closet. There's nothing, politics is dirty sometimes. In the last 2 weeks, it's been dirty.
Right. But you will commit as a county commissioner to follow the letter of the code
And not raise the height limit.
And the requirements for the variances that may be requested is already written into the code. So there are requirements to get a variance. It's not like you can just grant a variance for.
Correct.
Right.
And I think this would be a good study. I would like to see where years ago, where we started with variances. I would hope that as we're built out, the variances get fewer and fewer. That's an ugly word. I don't like that word variance unless somebody says, I want to put more parking in.
Right.
I'll variance all day long because that's what we need. But a variance with setbacks or size or height limits or the landscaping, no, it's the code. And we don't need to do those types of aesthetic variances that are not good for the county. Parking, again, I would love it, but that just doesn't happen as often as I would like to see it come through the BCC.
So another issue that I've heard people talk about is traffic and transportation. How do you feel about a public transportation initiative? How do you feel about what the TDC is piloting down in Grayton Beach? What new ideas can we bring to the table to maybe not only add parking, but reduce the number of cars that are on the street, specifically along the scenic highway?
The 30A corridor and then scenic 98.
Correct.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I'll give variances all day for additional parking because that's what we need. There is a lot of traffic down there, especially now. The first thing I would do, because it seems like the traffic problems are caused during high season. I think that everybody needs to have skin in the game. And what I mean by that is the people that do rent, they've got to be more enforceful with their renters. And what I mean by that, let's say that I'm going to rent a house and 8 people are going to stay there. And the house comes with a golf cart. A lot of times it's hard. It's harder to manage golf carts when the family rents it, but a lot of times that's part of the deal. We can enforce that if you get caught, you being the parent, letting your underage teenager drive this golf cart, the fines have to be stricter. Because we not only have that problem with golf carts, we also have it with the bicycles. Well, you don't have, bicycle is in any age, but we've got to educate our visitors better because it's for their safety and our safety as people that live here full time. I think the shuttle program out of Grayton is going well. Obviously that's parking and it's north of 98, so it's further away from the beach. They've got several different, they've got golf carts and then they've got enclosed vans that they're using for transportation. Because of the numbers of people that come down here, I think that's a great option. So it is incumbent upon the county not to only buy beachfront anytime we can, and that's really the TDC buying that, but to also source and seek out places where we can park. There's a lot that they bought on 393 that we still haven't developed. You know, Ed Walton is very busy. That's going to help out with the parking at Ed Walton. Shunt Gully has bought a lot of land north of them. I'm not sure, and right now it's all parking. So we've just got to be diligent in seeking out places to buy, to put people on the beach in a public area, and parking if they're not staying right on the beach and they have to drive to the beach.
All right. Is there anything you want to bring up specifically, or anything that I didn't mention?
I'm delighted you're doing this. I would not be running if I didn't think I was the best candidate in District 1 for different reasons that we've mentioned. I think that I would add diversity. Right now, you know, you mentioned the good old boys. Right now, everybody on that commission is from this area. We need a good mix. We need commissioners that are from here, that know that know the mistakes we made years ago, so we don't make the same mistake in 2020. However, we need people like me from outside of Walton County, but know it better than the average Joe that visits here, because I have been coming here since I was a little girl. I've been an owner for 15 years. I've been here permanently for 7 years. So I've done my homework and I'm ready to hit the ground running.
Well, Lisa, I really appreciate you sitting down and talking to me, and good luck in your election. And early voting starts tomorrow, right? Early
voting starts tomorrow, Saturday to Saturday, 8:30 to 4:30. Except for Sunday is 1 to 9. And then we'll take 2 days off, and then the big day is August 18th. So you can vote by mail. I know the absentees have already gone out. You can go into early voting, and I don't think that we'll see the numbers early voting this year or the day of the election, because so many people have signed up for absentees just because of the coronavirus. But it's going to be a great year for Walton County.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Bo.
Yes, ma'am.